AIA committee member and ALA annual conference planning committee member. She's held positions as law firm administrator and director of global law firms in the greater Los Angeles area. She has her JD and MBA, notary license, and an active entrepreneur. She is known for her community services work, advocacy, and mentorship with future law firm leaders. Let's give her, welcome our guest community.
Thank you so much. Also, what a nice introduction. I appreciate you. That was a lot to remember last minute. As she said, I'm a past president of the Los Angeles chapter and acting currently with ALA on a couple of committees, probably more well known as their chapter resource person for a while, for about two and a half years, where I was speaking to chapters about how to strengthen your membership and bring resources to your chapters. So clearly, I like to volunteer a little bit. So what I was invited to speak to you all about today is leadership. And as I thought about that, it occurred to me that you all are already leading in some capacity, but sometimes we forget. We forget about the qualities and characteristics that we were actually born with. We're all born leaders. Have you ever heard that phrase, born leader? Well, just to drive that point home a bit, I was sharing earlier that I grew up in the South Los Angeles community, and I looked around my environment at about 8 years old, and there was a lot of trash on the street. Somebody said something about growing and harvesting in the community. There was no place to grow trees or to have a garden. And I was upset with this at 8 years old. And something resonated with me. In the 70s, I'm a child of the 70s, and there was a character called Woodsy the Owl. Woodsy the Owl in the 70s was in charge of making our environment better. And then the light bulb went off in my head. I can empower myself to clean up my community at 8 years old in South LA. And my grandmother had gifted me with a plastic construction hat. And I had been playing with it from time to time with my dolls and my sisters. And I thought, let me put this construction hat to real use. And I went outside and I gathered a group of kids to start to clean up the neighborhood. And this was no easy feat, because these are the same kids that bullied and teased and weren't known for doing good deeds. But they all had a need in common. They wanted to live in a better neighborhood. They wanted to beautify it. They wanted the neighborhood to resemble other neighborhoods that we saw on television in the suburbs. And so I inspired this group of kids, or bribed them with candy and soda and chips, to all come together and clean up our neighborhood. Now, that resonated with me as a child in the 70s, but sometimes along the way, when we educate ourselves, we get the MBA, you get the JD, you start to run these large law firms, and we forget about the inner child, those natural characteristics that we were born with to be leaders. We start to stuff it down, And that isn't the best thing. We have to reawaken, reignite that fire that you maybe had when there were no limitations, when you were 5, 6, 7, 8 years old. We didn't know that there was a limit back then. We just identified a need and went to it. For fun, I thought you all might like to see what I looked like at that age. Does that look like a leader? I don't know. I mean, my head is down, I'm sitting on this stool, I've got my little psychedelic shirt on, you know. But at that age, you didn't know what was going on in that little brain, that little brain of mine. My wheels were turning about how to make this world a better place. And when I cleaned up the neighborhood, my folks said, oh my gosh, she's gonna be something one day. You would think they would say, oh, maybe one day she'll be a doctor or a lawyer. No, they said, she's gonna be a rock star. That really is me, by the way. During that time, I remember going to a beauty school because we couldn't afford much, and I said, just dye my hair platinum, like the rock stars. I think it fell out in the sink the next day. But I had that look for the moment. But I'm sharing this because it doesn't matter what it is that you choose to ultimately be in life. You can lead from whatever seat you are in. Whether you want to be a forest ranger like Woodsy Val, or if you want to be a rock star, you can lead. So this part requires a little bit of crowd participation. I want you to just shout out or raise your hand and tell me about a leader that you admire. And let me just say, this is a judgment-free zone. We're not going to ridicule you if you pick someone I don't like. So anyone, just shout out a leader that you admire or you think they've done a great job running a company or an organization, or they could just be someone in your personal life. Anybody? Anything come to mind? Yes? Nelson Mandela. Okay, yeah, and what characteristics did you like about him?
Obviously, he was all about his people. He was all about the people that he was trying to protect. He went to jail for years just to try to protect his country, the people that he stood up for what he believed in.
That's right, I love it. Anybody else? Anybody else? Leaders. I mean, obviously, we got Martin Luther King. He was very inspirational. You know, some of us are big on corporate leaders. You know, you might like the CEO of Starbucks, or, you know, Elon Musk has done some things, you know. So, but the leaders that I have looked up to are these. Anyone know Patty Murdan at Holland and Knight? You ever heard that name? You have no reason to hear that name, but I know her. Patty Murdan is a records manager. She started off at Percher, Nichols, and Meeks. And when I met her, she impressed me so much because she was passionate about her work. The records department was impeccable. I still, in my whole career, have not seen a records department as immaculate as the one that Patty Murdan managed. But what was more incredible about her, her team wanted to follow her. They wanted to be good. They wanted to be great at their jobs because of the way Patty ran the department. Tanya Russell. I don't know if any of you may or may have heard of her. She passed away a couple of years ago during the COVID time. But she was an executive director at Cat Nugent. And she stood out for me because I interviewed with her 15 years ago, trying to get my first management job. I didn't get the job, and I was so disappointed. But I was down to the final two. And I'll never forget, Tanya Russell sat with me and she said, Camila, I'm going to watch your career, keep my contact information. If you ever need anything or if you ever need any advice, please reach out to me. This is someone that I'm not her employee. I'm not part of her staff. And it meant something to her that I would succeed. And I thought, wow, when I'm in a position to lead, I want to be like Tanya. There are others. Louise Kaplan was a wonderful director administrator at Bryan Cave. Bryan Cave, I mean, they just ran like a well-oiled machine, the one in Santa Monica before they closed. And Louise was the type of leader that she was very quiet. She was very reserved, but you felt comfortable with her. She was the type of person that you could knock on the door and say, hey Louise, can I speak to you a moment about a work project? And she would take the time, even if she was incredibly busy. Mike Monroe was the operations manager at First Republic Bank. We know First Republic is no more. But Mike worked there for 11 or 12 years. And then he retired. And they thought so well of Mike, they called him and they said, we're in a pinch. Can you come back, even if it's just part-time? And Mike came back and supported them until they closed. I mean, these are the type of people that I admire. Isabel De Leon, she was my administrative assistant in HR at Percher Nichols and Meeks. And you know, there's a theme here, a lot of these firms are no more. But Isabel quietly led me as the HR manager and our executive director, because she had been with the firm so long, she knew where all the bodies were buried. But she was so secure and confident in her role that even those that had a higher position admired her. Dolores Hill, I had to talk about her. She was a receptionist at First Republic Bank. And my sister was hired there, entry level and client services. And she was so hard on my sister. We would go together to have lunch and she would say, oh, Dolores today, she criticized the way I faxed something and that I didn't attach. Do you guys remember having to attach the confirmation sheet to the fax cover? And she said it just has to be a certain way because she wants me to learn the FRB way. And then years after my sister had worked at First Republic Bank, she and Dolores became the best of friends. And Dolores was so proud of the manager that she had raised my sister up to be. And now my sister is the head of operations for CBRE for their Chase banks. But she owes that to Dolores Hill. We talked about it this morning. I said, I'm gonna bring up Dolores. So when we talk about leaders, they don't have to be famous. I'm thinking of a Marilyn McCoo song, you don't have to be a star, baby. So you don't have to be a star. You can be the star of your own show at your firm. Let's go into the key points that we want to cover today. We want to talk about leadership versus management. What are the elements of a great leader? And you probably hear a lot about the different leadership styles. We'll try try to dive into that a bit. Law firm structures, that's important when you're thinking about the organization that you lead. And challenges, can't forget about those. So we'll share some of the challenges that we all experience and maybe other leaders in the community have experienced. And the fact that you can lead at all levels, that is the spirit of this conversation. So leadership versus management, that means leadership is about vision and inspiring change. Management is about execution and maintaining efficiency. Neither one of them are wrong. It's just about who you choose to be within your firm. What are the elements of a great leader? Well, in my opinion, you need to have a vision first. There are so often I've seen people start a new job and they have no vision. And they come in and they're waiting for you to tell them what task they're assigned to do every day. And all they know is the task. But they don't understand the overall vision of the firm. They may not know what their direct manager's vision is for their respective department. And so with no vision, there is no path. You don't understand what your goals and standards are because you're just being task driven. But in our roles, something that we should all think about is mentoring and guiding the people that we support, the people that we manage. How can we impact their life